Well, hello everybody and welcome to a sunny but in places cloudy Indianapolis for round 6 of the 2022 Club 100 and BUKC iRacing Championship. For a bit of a special here in the month of May, our own Simply Catnip Indy 250, the second of two oval specials in this year's calendar. And this time we are in the Dallara IR18, the IndyCar around its famous home of oval racing. Good field here today. A qualifying session and shootout has already occurred earlier this week ahead of the big race here today, which will be an 100-lap single race here tonight or this evening, wherever you're watching it from. And could be a really, really key race in the story of the championship. Alongside me in the DDM virtual commentary box, as ever, is Howard Mitchell. Howard, how are you looking forward to this one?
Hello Andrew, hello everybody. I'm really looking forward to this one, mate. I know I say that every single time, but what's not to like? We've got, as you say, our own little Indy race here in our Simply Catnip 250, and yet another, I won't harp on about it now because we've got a race to start here, but another discipline that we are doing in this brilliant season of all diverse racing disciplines here. An eclectic mix that's making up our 2022 Club 100 iRacing Championship.
So the field having a few formation laps to get their tyres up to temperature, make sure that we've got a good clean start to this race. And it is all going to be about keeping yourself on the lead lap. The qualifying order was decided, as I say, by an open qualifying session a few days ago before this race, before a top 6 shootout. So let's cut the cameras to our pole sitter here today. Michael Preston, one of our top runners in the championship, is going to be on pole position here on the second of 4 formation laps. There he is in car number 19. Steve Hicks just behind in the green and white Tony Kanaan-like number 21 car. He's going to be starting second on the grid. 229.29 miles an hour is what Preston did. 229.12 for Hicks. There he is, and could be in with a real shout in the Simply Catnip car. Third on the grid for this race is Patrick Pischke, who's still in his debut season, of course, in this championship, but has been impressing massively. He could be a real factor in this race. 229.01 miles an hour is what he achieved there in the Menards car. Fourth place, Sam Sanders. Big day for his championship bid. 228.92 miles an hour for Sam. Sam starts from 4th on the grid. James Montgomery running in the charity livery. Details about that in the description below. 228.88 miles an hour for James. He starts 5th. And, well, in 6th place, I was hoping to see Cameron Watson, but I know Cameron's been having some problems. Had a big crash in the in qualifying. Just trying to see, is he there? The next car behind, the number 35.
Here he is in the number 48, Andrew.
Okay,
He's off the back.
Yeah, so he is starting from next behind. So I think next up will be Charlie Summers, 229.01 miles an hour. There he is in the number 35, running in a very patriotic livery there. 8th place, Alex Mitchell, running a very snazzy livery, is Alex in the number 53, 228.92 miles an hour in the open practice session. And running a DDMM logo on the fin as well, which we're very pleased to see. Christopher Powell is next up on the grid. 228.68 miles an hour for Chris, who's having a very strong run in Class 2. And again, this could be a really key day for Powell in his Class 2 efforts. 10th place in qualifying was Josh Ladd. Bit of a surprise for the Williams eSports driver, but there he is, 228.67 miles an hour. This is not his strong discipline. We'll be looking for a bit of damage limitation here today. 11th in qualifying was Tom Dix, running in the McLaren livery, 228.56 miles an hour, car number 27. Quite a few McLaren liveried cars in this race, so look out for Tom there. Matt Whitefoot, really good qualifying for Matt, 228.35. Matt Whitefoot in 12th place. 13th place was Ben Bennyworth, 228.27. And another driver who's been very consistent so far this season will be looking for a strong result. Next up, James Fremont in qualifying was 228.24. There he is in the Krispy Kreme's machine. Tom Kempink from Belgium, running of course in the Belgian flag colours. There he is. Was 15th in qualifying, 228.17 miles an hour. Before we get to David Whitehouse, 227.94 miles an hour, the 777, looking for a good run here today with the Mind charity livery on there. Luke Austin from Alpha Live is next up, 227.57 miles. You won't miss him in that bright green livery here today at Indianapolis. And then Ian Sumner, 227.38 seconds, was 18th fastest of those in open qualifying. 19th was Alan Curtis in 226.97, as we've got a great crowd here today there at Indianapolis. So Alan Curtis 19th in qualifying, 226.97. Matt Hale did not qualify, so he's the first of those to start from the back of the field. There he is in the 333 Simply Catnip car with the white and pink. And a couple of these did not qualify, have also not made it to the grid. But here you're having a look at Andrew Dawson in the number 23. Craig Brown is up next in the number 41. Running another IndyCar livery of years gone by. Mike Hart will be running from the back of the field. Another one of the McLarens. There he is in the number 11. Could be very quick here today. He's got a good rating on the ovals. JJ Aston is next up in the 15. Murray Adams and Cameron Watson. That is your field for round 6 of this championship. And we are green and racing at Indianapolis.
Yes, indeed, Andrew. We are away here for the Simply Catnip 250 at Indianapolis. Michael Preston leading them away here, as these drivers now will be looking to get into a nice rhythm as soon as they can.
Ian Sumner, I believe, has had a problem already. I think his connection has dropped out. That's why we lost him on the grid. So he's already going to be a number of laps down. But it's been a clean start at the front of the field. Preston from Hicks, Pishke in 3rd, Sam Sanders in 4th. So they finish lap number 1.
Absolutely. Michael Preston then getting the start that he needed to hang on to the lead at the end of lap number 1.
So the rules with cautions in this race will very much be if it's a large number of cars involved that the race will be neutralised. But if it's one driver on their own drifting up into the walls that can punish you here at Indianapolis, the race will continue. We're having a look at Matt Hale at the moment, the 333 car, currently in 17th place in the order. Sorry, no, I think it's made it up to 16th already as we switch to the other Simply Catnip car. Steve Hicks already with the attention of Sam Sanders, who goes into the inside through turn 1. Hicks to the outside, holds the position and shows straight away here, Howard, that overtaking in Indianapolis is not easy.
No, absolutely. It's so easy to underestimate the challenge of driving these cars around this Indianapolis circuit, and indeed to underestimate, as you say, the art of overtaking. But it is far from easy to judge this right, and to keep this focus when you've got the cars moving so fast around you is such a huge challenge.
Over the line they go then, running in 6th gear. These top 3 working together at the moment. 40.761 seconds the lap time from Hicks there, as we're having a look here at James Fremont, who's battling with Tom Kemping just ahead in the Belgian liveried car, and David Whitehouse behind the blue and white Mind car.
Side by side then, down the back straight. I should probably be saying straight away. And he's by. Good little pass there.
Yeah, Luke Austin and Matt Hale just behind. Oh, I think it's the trouble for Luke Austin. I think Luke Austin is tumbling down the order here. This could be trouble for the man from Alpha Live. And yes, he's in the wall. Yep. He's in the wall. He's had to tow to pit lane. I think it was an incident involving Matt Hale. That is a real shame for Luke Austin. His Indy 250, the Simply Catnip Indy 250. And I think, have we gone under caution? Yes, we have. So the first caution of the race is out. And that is for that incident involving Luke Austin. I just wondered, is Mike Hart involved in it as well? I see his name has gone blue on the timing tower.
Craig Brown and Matt Hale are also in the pit lane as well, Andrew. So I think there's a few there who have had an incident or an issue.
So yeah, the caution flag is out, and whilst we're under caution, how's the championship looking at this this halfway stage of this season? At least ahead of the final result here today at Indianapolis.
I'm glad you asked me, mate, because it's an interesting one. So bearing in mind there's a drop score system to be applied here. So Sam Sanders leads outright on points coming into this round on 490 points. Michael Preston in second. Charlie Summers is third. That's on 473 and 470 respectively. And then James Montgomery is on 463, and Chris Hansen right behind him by a point there in fifth place. In Class 2, on overall points count, it's Matt Hale on 420, Andrew Dawson and James Fremont tied on 417, and then it's Christopher Powell and Matthew Whitefoot to round out the top 5 in that. But if we look at drop scores, there is an element that I want to highlight here, which is that once you drop everyone's worst score, Josh Ladd is suddenly rocketed back up to the top of the standings there, and is sat there on 396. That's because he missed round 2. So if you get rid of that missed round, he suddenly comes into it as a major factor. So with a dropped score applied, it's Josh Ladd on 396 and Sam Sanders on 395. 1 point in it at the top of the championship, with 3 wins for Josh Ladd, 3 round victories for Josh Ladd, and 2 round victories for Sam Sanders. Michael Preston not too far behind either on 390. Charlie Summers on 385 in 4th place. James Montgomery on 380 in 5th. It then becomes Murray Adams, who's actually leading those Class 2 standings on 349, but Matt Hale still very much a factor on 343. So it's important to bear that drop score in mind. In reality, there is 1 point in it at the top of this championship between Josh Ladd and Sam Sanders.
Indeed, and is why today could be particularly important. A couple of cars coming back out of pit lane, I think, Howard. Obviously, the drivers are allowed to come in, and but they will need to come in because they do not have fuel tanks or supplies of fuel big enough to get them to the end of this race. James Fremont, I think, here is taking that option. They've got to run on the inside of that pit lane all the way and exit here on the outside, or the outskirts I should say, of turn number 2. And they've done that very well. Here's Mike Hart, who was involved in that incident, and there will be lucky dog opportunities as well for drivers to regain laps that they've lost across the course of this race. Still the early stages. If you're looking in the top left-hand corner, you're probably seeing an 103 lap race. That doesn't equal 250 laps, does it? Well, you'd be correct, but the first 3 laps of this race, in terms of how iRacing is looking at it, were all formation laps for us here in race control. So it is Michael Preston ahead of Steve Hicks, Sam Sanders, James Montgomery, Patrick Pischke. That's your top 5. And all of them are a lap ahead of Craig Brown and Matt Hale, who we're looking at here as the other car. And it, from what I've seen, it was just a bit of a racing incident, I think, between Hale and Austin through turn 3, got together, and then, as I say, there was a couple of cars into that as well. Fast repairs are in action in this race, and you can now see the wave arounds going on as Craig Brown goes by, Matt Hale and Mike Hart go by. So once these drivers catch up to the back of the field, we will be ready to go racing again here at Indianapolis. And a circuit, of course, an oval format that looks, to the untrained, Howard, as we've just seen the graphic come up there on the screen, very easy, but these 4 corners at such high speeds are anything but.
Absolutely, mate. It's always this deceptive, as you say, to the untrained eye, it can look really simple here, but judging these right, when you've got no runoff, you've got such a, obviously the cars are, we've got wings on the car, but you're trying to maximise it to get as much speed on the straights, moving into and out of the banking, and with the walls right next to you and judging that, and you're adding in all of the cars around them. It really is quite a skill to get this right, and it has to be said, perhaps one that you know, not so many people. Whenever we come to the ovals, it's worth bearing in mind the majority of people in this field are more accustomed to doing the standard road racing in iRacing. So it's one as well where people have had to maybe do some particular practice for this event, and perhaps it changes the pecking order a little bit between our drivers as to who's got a bit more experience and skill at this particular racing discipline.
The skill's going to need to be shown now. The pace car has pulled in, and we're going to be back to green at Indianapolis. Very good start for Michael Preston. He's got a big lead already ahead of Steve Hicks and Sam Sanders. Hicks to the inside has lost position there, so Sam Sanders up into second place. James Montgomery has had a bright start from the restart as well there in P4. Side by side between Patrick Pichquet and Charlie Summers there. And that's a good move from Patrick Pichquet round the outside through turn 2.
Yeah, beautiful stuff there between them. And plenty of moves being made further down, or attempts being made further down the order as well. This is Ben Bennyworth chasing Murray Adams as they come out of turn number 3 and into 4.
Murray Adams, competing in Class 2, will be looking to just keep things nice and steady at this stage. It is very much about keeping your car clean and running in that top 10. You're not going to win the Simply Catnip Indy 250 at this stage of the race, but you definitely can use it. So you can tick that one off the cliche bingo list if you're watching at home. Here's Tom Kempink. Or briefly we were watching Tom Kempink, now looking at Josh Ladd defending from Tom Dix.
Yeah, absolutely. And a relatively late move there, but gave the message that was needed, which was if you're going to come by me, you're going to have to go round the outside, which Tom Dix duly does, and with a beautiful pass there, takes himself up into 9th place.
Yeah, as we say, it does feel today as if this is a bit of a struggle for Josh Ladd. It's not, as you say, he's very close there between Steve Hicks and James Montgomery. There was a touch. There was a touch there as they ran out of turn 1 into turn 2, and brilliantly, both of them kept it under control.
Yeah, heart in the mouth moment for certain there for them, and now pulling alongside is the 13 of Pichquet, and he's through on Montgomery unless there's a response. But to be honest with you, I think Montgomery by and large will just be happy to be finishing this lap in one piece after that moment at the start.
Yeah, that was very, very, very close between the two of them. End of another lap. And you're already starting to get the feeling with this race that it is going to be about this top 6 or so who just seem to have a bit more speed. Those drivers who we saw in the top 6 shootout on Sunday night. On board now with Sam Sanders in second place, closing in on Michael Preston. They're running very similar liveries. Sanders to the inside through turn 3. Is he going to get the move done? Yes, he is.
Two of our key protagonists in the championship here, and that could be a crucial move there for Sam Sanders as he goes to the front of the race. When Preston's already seeing to come back at him here as they come into 1, and he's through with a counter-attack there. A little bit of a gap behind them to Steve Hicks here, so they can just get a sense of each other at this stage in the race. I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities or moments where positions change here. Just opening salvo. Here comes Sam Sanders back at Preston again and is through a lap after he first went through.
Just looking a little bit further down the order here, how top 10 are starting to break away. So it's almost like we're breaking into two halves here, with the first half ending where Josh Ladd is, and here's the start of the second one. David Whitehouse in the 777 ahead of the 007 of Tom Kempink at the moment. Kempink to the inside, running down the inside into turn 1. Should have this one done very nicely indeed for the Belgian. And that is also for second place in Class 2.
Yes, very good point. Christopher Powell currently at the head of that field, as back at the front. They've swapped round again, I believe. In fact, they may have swapped around again and again since we were last with them, such that it looks like nothing's changed, but I promise you it has. Sam Sanders currently at the head of this field, as you say, and you can see in that graphic in the top right-hand side that as another move for the lead here as Michael Preston goes by on Sam Sanders, and Sanders is going to slot into place, though one wouldn't bet for very long. But you can see what Andrew is talking about in the top right-hand graphic the field splitting into two here effectively, with a couple of people off the back of the pack. And here we go again on board with Sanders, by on Preston again, and to the lead into turn number 3.
Working a good gap though at the moment are these drivers. This isn't them necessarily going straight out for out fighting and both wanting to lead. There is an element of almost like team time trial cycling, where each of them take a turn at the front of the order to work the average speed of both cars to be a little bit higher. Back with the second group once again, Kemping back underneath Whitehouse. You could see Andrew Dawson trying to sneak through as well there in the orange and blue 023, on board with him now through turn number 2, looking for a slightly wider line, maybe cut back in. But this is always the big challenge, I think, for especially newcomers to this car, is how the dirty air affects the aerodynamics of the Dallara IR18, particularly in the corners. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. It can all suddenly change on you. Getting used to that characteristic as you pull out of the slipstream of another car, as I say earlier, it's yet another aspect of this different discipline. Obviously, you know, when doing road racing, people pull out of slipstreams and have that effect. But it's a different kettle of fish when you're doing it at this kind of speed. Whoa. Over and over again. As there's a big moment there as Tom Kemping goes side by side with Andrew Dawson, and Dawson is through, and that's going to give an opportunity for Bennyworth as well, or he senses the opportunity. And look out for Murray Adams as well, trying to buy into this one. This is fantastic. Oh, sorry, Cameron Watson, I think it is. This is fantastic stuff here, in amongst what we'll dub the second pack within this race. But they are not giving each other an inch at the moment.
Yeah, and this is a really testing moment of the race, I think, mentally for Cameron Watson. Was in the top 6 shootout in qualifying on Sunday night, but had a crash. Was not just inside the top 6, was well inside the top 6, was one of the big favourites for pole position, but has had to start from the pit lane due to damage on the car. As you can see, Alex Mitchell going slowly there and filing back down the order. But for Watson, he's got to be patient. There's going to be another caution at some point in this race. He's just got to make sure that his car's clean in one piece and that he doesn't fall off the lead lap, to hope that he can be up towards the front later on in the latter stages.
Yeah, absolutely, as there's another lead change there. Michael Preston to the head of the field again in the number 19, back to where he started this Simply Catnip 250. And again, down the inside, his favourite place on the circuit to go by is going to go Sam Sanders to go back to the lead. And Steve Hicks at the moment, Andrew, keeping his powder relatively dry there, sat within reach, touching distance there in 3rd place.
Yeah, it's very good stuff. As I say, we have had Alex Mitchell drop down and out of the order now. He was in the top 10. I'm seeing he's now down in 17th, back with the second pack, led by Andrew Dawson now, with David Whitehouse second in tow. So this is over 10th place now. Sweeping into turn 1 there, slightly different line from Cameron Watson, you can see further back. 3 Class 1s in this pack, all line astern. In fact, sorry, 4 Class 1s in this pack, all line astern. Ben Bennyworth, it's the first of them then, Cameron Watson, Mike Hart and Alex Mitchell. Looking back there from Andrew Dawson. 777 of David Whitehouse. Look how close they're running up to the walls. Everyone out there giving full commitment.
Yeah, this is brilliant to see, I've got to say. You know, I mentioned earlier this idea that for a lot of drivers in the field, this isn't going to be their primary discipline that they're used to in iRacing. But I've got to say, thus far, they're really conducting themselves quite nicely out here on the racetrack. You know, I'm going to, you know, oh, there's a moment there for Murray Adams into the wall.
Big incident, and well, this may bring out
Murray
caution.
Adams, is it?
It
yes,
is.
it is.
It is Murray Adams in the red and white.
Bennyworth.
Well, there we go. That's one in the Howard Mitchell pot for commentator curses in 2022.
Sorry all. And Michael Preston.
Now I think we've had an incident here. I'm just seeing on the replay, but I think this has been triggered by Craig Brown. That Craig Brown has had an off and has collected Michael Preston. This is a big moment. Now, can he keep on the lead lap? He will have a fast repair once the car is towed back to the pits. This has happened off of our cameras, but I'm just receiving information that yes, that this has been an incident initially with Craig Brown, that he's then been stuck in the middle of the circuit and it's not been judged quite right, and Michael Preston, who was leading this race, is now in the pits. This will be the time now that you're seeing there, he's being virtually towed back to the pits by the sim. Once he's been towed back to the pits, or that time has gone to 0 seconds, then he will get a fast repair and back out again. Now, hopefully for Michael Preston, he will get a wave around during this safety car period and get back onto the lead lap. But this is a big, big moment in the story of this race, Howard, that one of our favourites is stranded in pit lane.
Yeah, huge moment there, Andrew. Really, really significant as things were kicking off in the other pack. So too were they at the very front of this race, and it has, as you say, brought about a crucial point in this race as people choosing to come into pit lane at this point, Andrew.
Yeah, looks like Alex Mitchell is not staying out. Well, he is, sorry. He's not coming into pit lane. He is staying out. We did say there were going to be pit stops in this race. Drivers needing to manage fuel. Under caution here as... Oh, what's happened here? Ben Bennyworth's had a spin in the pit lane. Ben Bennyworth is caught in the pit lane. James Montgomery's got tangled up with this as well. This is going to affect James Montgomery's race. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos in the pit lane here at Indianapolis. That is sure. And now Bennyworth is towed. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but poor James Montgomery was very, very much disadvantaged by that.
That is bizarre, I have to say. I mean, yes. You say our commentator cursed it, mate. I didn't even quite finish the point. The point I was going to make is that things are dramatically improved in the oval space relative to the NASCAR round that we had, which was a lot of fun. Do not get me wrong, but we had up at this percentage point through the race, we had a greater number of cautions, if that makes sense. But now I'm just adding insult to injury of the commentator's curse, so I'll shut up at that point.
Preston
Steve
rolling
Hicks.
again. Sorry, Preston rolling. We just caught the end of it there on the pit lane cam, that Michael Preston has got himself rolling again. Now, I think he's only one lap down.
Yeah.
He's in some ways been very, very lucky here, because he will get a wave around. He is going to be able to keep himself on the lead lap here. We did see this with Mike Hart and Craig Brown earlier in the race. So maybe it's not over yet for Michael Preston. And this really is a big opportunity now for the likes of Sam Sanders, Steve Hicks and Josh Ladd as well, on this day where we've been saying that this isn't Josh Ladd's primary discipline. It's not his strongest. Well, at the moment he's ahead of his championship rival. But looking at the order in which they've come back out of the pits here, Howard, it has changed things a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's Steve Hicks, who we mentioned keeping his powder dry there in third place, who's been a key beneficiary of this, with Piskay in second, Summers in third, Ladd in fourth. And what a drive so far from Christopher Powell. His really impressive season, Andrew, continues with him leading Class 2 at the moment. Really good stuff here from Powell. And he comes to this round, I want to say, having taken the Class 2 win last time out, if memory serves correctly. So, as I say, a really strong campaign that we're seeing from Powell, as we start to see, you can see on your graphic on the top right, and indeed from cars flashing through the shot, that people are starting to get the wave around.
Yeah, Ian Sumner back out on circuit as well, so his connection issues, at least for now, seem to have dissipated, which is good to see. And it's worth carrying on with this, Howard, because of course it is a slightly smaller field than normal here this evening, but that means that, you know, even if you turn up, you go round, you get classified, you're going to get good points here tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you've got to be, as you see in the real world Indy 500, right? You've got to be in it to win it, and it can, the strangest things can happen in a race like this, and it really can be down. It can be anyone's race in so many ways. So keep rolling, keep running around, and who knows what could come back your way come the end of the race.
Looks like the pace car is going to be in this lap. Alex Mitchell is your leader in this train, but not in the race. He is effectively 0.99 laps down. Now, he does not have to let the field through here and will be looking to keep himself on the lead lap. We're going to go back to green here at Indianapolis. 27 laps out of 103 completed, and away we go. Steve Hicks is your race leader. Patrick Pichegay there in second place. So it's the green and white Simply Catnip car of Steve Hicks at the front of the field in terms of timing and scoring. Patrick Pichegay in the Menards car in P2, and what a run so far from Charlie Summers there in P3.
Yeah, absolutely on board with him now in the wheel tracks of Pichegay, and this has indeed been a really impressive run from the driver who sits fourth in the championship standings coming into today. Pichegay, though, all over the back of Hicks, we can see ahead of us. It's nice and close here off of the restart.
So about a quarter of the way through this race so far. If you're enjoying the coverage, do make sure that you've subscribed at Double Dash MM. Click that button, click the notification bell as well, because we're here at Indianapolis, one classic circuit, and we're off to another one next in round 7 for another special event, something a little bit different to what we've done before. 4-hour Pro-Am Endurance Special round Circuit de la Sarthe. We'll be going to Le Mans in the month of June, and you'll be able to watch that race live on the evening of Wednesday, the 22nd of June. Here's Tom Kemping, P11 at the moment, and James Montgomery, who we said was one of those drivers disadvantaged in whatever happened there to Ben Bennyworth in the pit lane. It's now fallen down to 10th place.
Yeah, it was a truly odd one, that, in the pit lane, it's got to be said, but running well here is James.
It's looked like Bennyworth is out of the race as well with whatever occurred there. I think David Whitehouse has had problems as well. I'm hearing that a steering failure for the 777 means that David Whitehouse is also not running anymore. So that means we're down to 18 cars out there. Looking back from Alex Mitchell.
I can't think why I picked this camera.
I don't know. Completely random reason why you picked this one. There's Patrick Pichegay, who is your new elite race leader. I was about to say effectively your race leader. No, he is the race leader.
Very much so, and Charlie Summers still keeping himself very much in contention with Steve Hicks. Oh, was that Josh Ladd just tagging the wall slightly there?
Yeah, I think it
coming
was.
out of 2.
Yeah, Josh Ladd has not looked happy with this car. It's looked a little bit loose in his hands. There's still a long way to go here in this race. Steve Hicks to the high side.
That's being demoted down to second place, as ahead of them Patrick Pichegay is going to put the lap on Alex Mitchell here. But that is a change for second place. Summers up on Hicks. Round the outside, tries the leader now. Is this going to provide any opportunities for those behind him? Because he still can't get by on Mitchell.
Yeah, that's the thing. Alex Mitchell, that's a quick car, and he does not have to let these leaders through. There are no blue flags in this race. He was running in that top 10 that we were talking about earlier in the race. So he's perfectly obliged to hold his line here and leave it up to Patrick Pichegay to find a way around. On board again with Charlie Summers. Down the main straight we go, out of turn 4 towards turn 1, past the famous pagoda on your left and the timing tower into turn 1. Pichegay to the outside, still can't find a way past Alex Mitchell.
Yeah, and this is going to give the likes of Summers a double toe effectively. He can move around between these two when they go side by side and still enjoy a lovely slipstream, as that's a moment for Pichegay trying to get by to put the lap on, and that's going to be surely an opportunity for Summers to buy into this, and he goes side by side into 3.
Yeah, and I think there may be a warning there to Alex Mitchell. He's allowed to defend, but that was a little bit close for the liking of race control. And as we say, change of lead. America to the front. Charlie Summers leads there at what is the end of lap 33, but effectively 30 when you take away the 3 extra formation laps we had.
Yeah, it's coming up to a third distance in the Simply Catnip Indy 250. And it is indeed the Stars and Stripes at the head of the field.
Now, if we stay green here, Howard, I do think it's still a long way in this race to go. That there will be drivers thinking about green flag fuel stops.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely, mate. As it's getting, there was a little look from Hicks there, I think, through 4 for second place, but it stays as they were. As Charlie Summers now goes to the outside of Alex Mitchell to try and put the lap on him, and still can't get by, Andrew.
Interesting,
as you say. No, go on.
Interesting as well that the field is not splitting into 2 like we saw first time round in that first long stint of green running.
There's a slight gap between. So Michael Preston here is at the back of this pack, and then there's a slight gap between Michael Preston here and Mike Hart ahead of him. So a small gap beginning to open between the top 10. But you're right, by and large, there is not a lot of field spread going on since the restart. As once again, side by side, and it is, as you were talking earlier, mate, about it's not a million miles away from being no one wants to be at the head of the peloton in a cycling race, because it's actually quite difficult in some ways, and it's complicated at the moment by having Alex Mitchell there as this car that's a lap down. Well, I shouldn't say it's a lap down yet. It's not actually become so, as this is a look from Piskay now trying to return the favour on Summers to use this complication with the traffic, as that's Alex Mitchell cutting towards the line of Summers to deny him a way through. Now Summers goes up to the inside to look for a way by.
Looks like a better
this
run.
Is interesting. Yeah, this
like
is a much better run.
So at long last, Charlie Summers has got ahead. Alex Mitchell has gone a lap down, but he can fight back, of course. We have seen some changes. We saw it early with Preston and Sanders. So now it's the turn of the race leader to defend the position out there on track. And Charlie Summers, with the good position that he's in, is not going to want to fight too much. He's going to want to keep his car clean. Can he keep Alex Mitchell behind? That car of Mitchell is not slow at all. We saw that in qualifying earlier on this week. Down the pit straight we go again. And here Alex Mitchell now trying to unlap himself. Has got the inside line. And based on what we saw with Summers 1 lap ago, should have the advantage.
Yeah, and in many ways, as you say, he's perfectly obliged to do this. To be clear, wants to keep himself, if at all possible, on that lead lap. Yeah, interesting predicament here for those at the front. That they're having to deal with this. I should say Tom Dix is on the pit lane,
dear.
Andrew, and well, as you can just see, he's having quite a bit of damage repaired there. So drama befalling his race effort.
Yeah, not sure what's happened to Tom Dix there, but that is going to put him out of position. That's a shame. That's another car that was running strongly in the top 10. Here's James Montgomery making progress, coming back from that hold-up that was not his fault at all in the pit lane under the last caution. That's him getting past Christopher Powell and is now up to 6th place.
And it brings about, Andrew, a battle for the lead in Class 2 here. Chris Powell currently leading that, but Andrew Dawson there in the McLaren livery right on his tail. So this is for... actually, I was saying the McLaren livery, it's the orange and blue livery. Is that a McLaren rocket? But anyway, either way, Andrew Dawson and Christopher Powell battling for 7th on the road, but the lead within that class at the moment.
Indeed. End of lap number 36, and once again the battle at the front of the field. Alex Mitchell trying to stay on the lead lap. Charlie Summers to the outside. Can he sweep round the outside? I think no, Mitchell will have the advantage as they go through turn 2 here. Look at how much understeer Patrick Piskay's having to deal with there through turn 2 in the wake of 2 cars. He's going to go to the outside now, 3 wide almost, as they go towards turn number 3. And got to say, Alex Mitchell is doing a really good job here of keeping this pace up with the leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. He's conducting himself in a reasonable way so far. As far as I'm concerned, he's not making life easy, but he's also not, at the moment, at least, causing any issues. And as you say, his pace is perfectly respectable in amongst these front runners.
Another chance for Summers, trying to get his nose ahead. It's off turn 2. That's the really, really key point. He's got to have the move done, you feel, and this time, yes, he has got it done.
Yeah, nice stuff there.
Strangely for Summers, he kind of needs Piskay there straight through as well to work as a 2, even though they're competing for the win at the moment, to fend Mitchell off. Here's Cameron Watson still finding a way through the order. Where is he at the moment? He's in 12th place, fighting with Tom Kemping there and Andrew Dawson ahead. And I think, is this the start of green flag fuel stops. Yes, it is. So Andrew Dawson comes into pit lane at the end of lap number 41. James Ferryman is as well in.
Meanwhile, the battle goes on in the pack that they just removed themselves from us. Oh, who's that ahead? Why is there...
Oh, it's Josh Ladd.
Josh Ladd. Moment for Josh Ladd there. The championship leader, if you adjust for drop scores, and that is a big drama there. And we'd spoken, Andrew, about how this has not been as comfortable a discipline for him as the road racing.
Well, the 2021 champion is not having a good day here at Indianapolis. He's going to be able to limp the car back to the pits, I think. But this really does put him out of sync now in terms of being up at the front end of this race. On board with Murray Adams now. How's his tyres looking at the moment? Oh, on the outside there. Through turn 2, getting past Tom Kempink, even if it's just momentarily. Josh Ladd has made it back to pit lane. That could have been a lot worse, I feel, for Josh Ladd. Oh, now it's a lot worse. He's spun in the pit lane. He spins in the pit lane. He's going to try and pivot it round 360 and get back into his pit stop. The number 42 sign there just between the 27 and the 769. More seconds ticking by for Josh Ladd. Is he going to keep himself on the lead lap of this race? We're back with Dawson and Fremont, who we've seen have pitted. It's all going on here at Indianapolis.
If you want to know, and he is out the pit lane, I think, Andrew, yeah, there is Josh Ladd exiting. So I think... no, he has gone down a lap. He has gone down a lap on that, I think. Although, and here we are back with it. These are still going side by side with Alex Mitchell. Oh, I thought we were going to go 3 wide there into 1. This is all just happening as we're looking at the other stuff. This is just, you know, mere millimetres from each other at the front. That's how we're working at the moment. But yeah, well, you can put that one in your diary, folks, because it's a rare enough event that you will see Josh Ladd make a mistake. It's an even rarer one you'll see him make a mistake in the pit lane and have to sort of style his way into the pit box. And that, I think, is the first time with a bit of a drama there as he went by. But that is the first time I think we've seen our top 2 past Alex Mitchell ahead by a lap, Andrew. And
they've got to keep working together now, because if they can increase their speed, even if it's by 0.1 of a mile an hour, they could pull away and drop Steve Hicks. It's Steve Hicks who's now got the challenge of getting past Alex Mitchell on the roll hoop now through turn number 2. 1 lap 46 out of 103 in the scheduled session, so we're still not halfway at this stage. Hicks to the inside as they go towards turn number 3. Look at the amount of understeer, and Hicks has to get out of the throttle to avoid an incident. Now Sam Sanders is going to be on his tail. May have a go into turn 1. Yeah, former race leader Sanders would like to get in on this. James Montgomery is there for the party as well. As we've not seen too many pitting from this top pack, as they're going side by side for the lead as well. Back at the front of the order. Stuff. Yeah. Charlie Summers and Patrick Pichgay, 2 drivers new to the championship in 2022. You wouldn't have guessed it on this performance. Pichgay to the inside as they go through turn number 3. Takes the lead of the race in the Menards car. This is a very good run so far from Patrick Pichgay. Yeah, really good stuff here. And here's Steve Hicks still, I think, hoping that Alex Mitchell is due a pit stop soon, Andrew, if it could at all be arranged. Yeah, it's will be on the mic. So that was so close to the wall for Mitchell. Sorry there, mate. And Hicks is in a bit of bother as well. Manages to get it all caught up. Because, of course, the thing here with Mitchell did not pit under that last safety car. That's kind of what's put him in this position. Yeah. You've got to think that he will be running fairly low on that fuel tank. The back end of Mitchell's car looking a little bit loose also. Oh, and through on the lead, Andrew. Charlie Summers is through, back into the lead of this race. Yeah, Charlie Summers taking the line there and moving through to the front of the order. It is starting to spread out at the front, but still A long way in this race to go. James Montgomery, just see there at the back of the train with the purple and pink car. Considering what happened to him around 20-25 laps or so ago, he's running very nicely indeed. Could be a real factor here today in the number 14. That's Sam Sanders just ahead of him. Out of turn 4 once again. Still green here at Indianapolis.
How about this man, Christopher Powell, with Michael Preston.
You got Tom Dix in the middle of them, yeah.
Yeah, it is Tom Dix in the middle, isn't it? Who's on a bit of a recovery drive now after we saw him in the pit lane. Nevertheless, this is a superb drive from Powell so far, leading that Class 2 still, in spite of the disruption we've had with the caution.
I just wonder for Preston as well, does he start to change the tactics a little bit? We've seen quite clearly how difficult overtaking around here is. This is an opportunity for him to fuel save a little bit, because we know from the history of the 500, it can turn into a fuel race in those last 20 laps or so.
It certainly can, mate, and absolutely, he really could utilise that quite effectively here. As you say, is it time to have a bit of a rethink? Doesn't look like he's about to try and save fuel behind Powell though, because he's looking to the inside here into 3. But you've got to wonder if he's maybe thinking about how he could be a bit more creative here to see himself get back to the front where he was previously.
Brief downshift into
Mitchell
fifth.
on pit lane, Andrew.
Yep, so Alex Mitchell, a valiant effort, will now definitely be a lap down. Where's he going to come out in all of this? Here are your leaders, Charlie Summers and Patrick Pichgate, 1 and 2. Steve Hicks in 3rd, 4th for Sam Sanders, James Montgomery 5th. Alex Mitchell looks, is that Alex Mitchell going for tyres as well?
Looks like it.
Charlie Summers just trying to keep this pace up. Going to look to the inside. This is his strong point. We've seen him do this quite a few times already, and goes past Patrick Pichgate there. What's the gap looking like at the moment, Howard? Back to Steve Hicks.
It's less than 1 point. It's 11/10 of a second at the moment, mate. So still much as it was at the start of this race, but just with 2 different drivers ahead of him. Steve Hicks, as Pichgate comes back at Summers here. Hicks keeping himself very much in contention here, playing himself into this one nicely.
Into the pits comes Matt Hale.
Oh, you'll never guess where Alex Mitchell's come out.
Well, there you go. There shows you just how long a pit stop costs you around this track. It's about a lap, because Mitchell has come back out ahead of the drivers he was squabbling with earlier. Here's Matt Hale into the pits in the 333.
In the Simply Catnip car, in the Simply Catnip Indy 250. There you go. Murray Adams also making a visit to the pit lane.
Looks like David Whitehouse has got running in this race. I can see some lap times coming in from his transponder on the 777.
Yep.
And again, just trying to run through, because you never know how many of these cars won't make the finish. Summers to the inside once again, gets by past Pichgate. So there goes Murray Adams. This will all cycle through, of course, as long as we stay green. Everybody will lose about a lap or so, as Matt Hale will hold to the high side, let the leaders go by.
That is the alternative approach you can take if you're at the back.
So
I want to stress that, you know, as we say, what Mitchell did, he's within his rights to do as Summers comes into the pit lane.
Yep, crucial point of the race this for Charlie Summers. Got to get it right, got to get the speed down, got to get the run into the box correct as well. Spin in the background, that's Tom Dix! Oh, the 2 McLarens have nearly collected into one another. That's another bizarre incident in the pit lane. I think Mike Hart has got out of that scot-free, I think. Tom Dix just misjudged the run into pit lane there. Gone on the brakes, did a full pirouette around his McLaren liveried teammate. Oh no, and now he's had a spin coming into the box. It's all gone very wrong. Just shows you that this place is not easy at all. Away goes Charlie Summers from his pit stall. That looked pretty good, Howard.
Yeah, being as they are, as Patrick Pisquet is now on the pit lane, being as they are two McLarens, hopefully you'll forgive me if I question what is he doing on the pit lane there.
Oh dear. Right, so Patrick Pisquet, now this is important. Patrick Pisquet managed to go a lap further on fuel. Will that be something of a consequence towards the end of this race? We are into the second half of the race now. Yeah. Lap 57 out of the scheduled 103 in the lobby. Remember, the first 3 laps of this race were all formation laps, so technically aren't part of the running of this race. Would have been a little bit of fuel usage, of course. On board now with Charlie Summers. Is he going to get out ahead of Patrick Pisquet? Pisquet has to stay to the inside on the pit exit lane there, and yes, Summers has done it. Oh, has he?
Oh, just about. By the slimmest of margins, as now Sam Sanders is on the pit lane.
Steve Hicks has done a good job on fuel saving as well. He's managed to get a few more laps out of the tank.
I really think he's playing himself into this one nicely, Andrew. It's going to be really interesting to see how the strategy plays out here in this latter half of the race, as the race leader does indeed come into the pits.
Yep, in he comes in the number 21, the green and white Simply Catnip car. No Chris Hansen running this evening. He's busy in race control, overseeing things. Out of the pits comes Sam Sanders. That feels like he's gained out of that. I
agree. That is a gain for certain there. He's just 0.8 of a second off the back of Pisquet there as he rejoins the circuit. So that, Andrew, that cycle of stops has worked out well for him. And the question's going to be, where will he be in relation to Steve Hicks here?
Steve Hicks should be moving down pit lane as Pisquet goes to the inside, looking for the lead through turn 1 on board with Steve Hicks now. You'll see to the outside likely. The two, there go Pisquet and Summers. That's perfectly legal. That's fine.
Yep.
As long as he exits pit lane here, that is okay. And he's been jumped by Sam Sanders.
Yep. Sanders has played that one nicely. The only question will be, as the leaders go side by side again, how did he achieve that? Was that through good lap time? Was that through has he not chosen to do something with tyres in the stop that he might have to pay back on later? We will have to wait and see on that one. But good result either way for Sam Sanders in that round of stops.
And another crucial thing, Michael Preston has done his pit stop, and after being in real big trouble earlier in this race, now finds himself P5 and looking quick. He's the quickest driver of these top 5 at the moment, 40.741 last time around. Summers to the inside once again through turn number 3. Pisquet's going to have to let him go. They trade the lead back and forth once again here at Indianapolis. This is the end of lap number 60 out of 103. 43 laps to go here on the famous bricks.
Brilliant stuff that we're seeing in this race, Andrew. Nice little battle developing behind Michael Preston between James Montgomery. Excuse me, that's Alex Mitchell. That's not the first time I've made that mistake in this race. It's still nice and close though, and as we've seen, Alex is not afraid to get his elbows out here, so it's probably noteworthy enough for James that this is the case.
Slight change of things in Class 2 as well. I can see that Christopher Powell is having a tremendous run here this afternoon. The 769 is in 7th place overall, ahead of Mike Hart, one of the Class 1s. You can see Matt Hale in the pink and white Simply Catnip 333 in between them. He's gained out of the pit stops as well, because he was, you think he was battling with Andrew Dawson and Tom Kemping and Murray Adams. He's got clear of them again.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is an impressive run here. Although Murray Adams is that, yeah, here is Murray Adams. So a little way off the back of the pack that we were just with. He's the closest challenger at the moment in Class 2 for Chris Powell. As I tell you what's slightly interesting at this stage of the race, Andrew, after such close racing, there is a bit of field spread here. I mean, here's Tom Kemping, and I'm not sure I've seen a shot of Tom so far this race without at least 5 other cars around him. And he's having a bit of a chill time of it here, is is 007.
Yeah, but picking up good points at the moment. So the likes of Ian Sumner wasn't able to take the start because of connection issues. David Whitehouse had a wheel steering issue, a technical issue on his rig. JJ Aston's had issues so far today. Tom Dix has had a couple of spins. Matt Hale was involved in the earlier incident, the one that brought out the caution for the first time in this race. Cameron Watson had to start from pit lane, of course. Sorry, go ahead, Howard.
I was going to ask the question. If you're the top 4 right now and you've got Michael Preston closing down and his speed is without question, should you be battling right now or should you be working together to try and offset his pace?
I really don't. I think they're trying to work together and they're trying to do that thing of taking turns at the front of the order. But, whoa, as Pischke got really close to the wall and Sanders did as well. Hicks is going to be up the inside. Doesn't have the straight line speed. I think they are trying to push as hard as possible and work together, but the pace of Preston with this setup, they just cannot deal with it at the moment.
Steve Hicks takes a slightly wider line through 4. But this is fascinating stuff, Andrew, as we're getting towards 2/3 distance here in the Simply Catnip Indy 250. And this is what I love about the real world, you know, the Indy 500 in the full metal racing, as we like to say, in the real world, where you just can't call who's going to win this race. And I'm delighted to see that we've got very much the same situation going on here. As Steve Hicks is side by side with Sanders, we've got the box office seats here on board with Preston. But again, Hicks has to back out of that move.
Yeah, and you can see once again, this time Preston having to lift in the corners, in the dirty air. Aerodynamics not as efficient. Very skinny wings, of course, on this edition of the Dallara IR18, on the most famous oval of them all. Those wings are still working, and when you're in that dirty air, just not getting that good airflow over the top of the surfaces to give you the force level that you want through the corners. Here's Charlie Summers, or looking back from Charlie Summers. Lost out a bit in the pit stop. That's why he's been caught a bit by Sanders and Hicks, but crucially still at the front of this order. See Hicks going to the outside this time. Sanders sweeping in front. And around the outside there goes Steve Hicks. A big bravery there from the driver in car number 21. He's got the position.
Yeah,
and Sanders got a problem, actually. And Sanders got a problem because now he's being attacked by Michael Preston, and Michael Preston is up to 4th.
Yeah, Preston through on Sanders, as you say, and he certainly seemed to get out of shape in that lap. How is he now in a straight line? He does appear to be losing out quite a bit here to this top 4 now that they've got by him, doesn't he? He stayed out. He seems to be trying to get on with it. We're going to have to monitor the gap.
Oh, big incident! Pischke's gone. Big incident, and Patrick Pischke, one of the front runners in this race, is out. Is out of the Simply Catnip Indy 250. He got in a bad way through turn 2, slapped into the wall. How on earth did Steve Hicks not get collected by that? That is a big moment in this race, and you get the feeling this is what we thought might happen if we got a long run of green here. Tyres will start to give up. The track is getting a little bit dirtier out there, and Patrick Pischke has paid a big cost there. A potential win at Indianapolis is gone.
Huge moment in the story of this race, Andrew. Huge moment indeed, and exactly what we were talking about at the very top of the race, though. You underestimate driving around this circuit at your peril, basically, because it is so much concentration. And as you say, the track is evolving, the tyres are evolving, and you've got the cars around you as well. It is so easy to do, and it's sadly ended in a bit of a disaster there for Patrick Pischke. It's provided opportunity, though. Steve Hicks now all over the back of Michael Preston, and we've seen James Montgomery has not only got by on Alex Mitchell, but has also got by on Sam Sanders, who now has dropped behind Alex Mitchell, so something isn't going well here for Sam Sanders in his car. He just does not seem to be on the pace. I don't know if it's the tyres have just switched off for him, but something means he's not got confidence at this. And two former race leaders, Andrew, one in quite dramatic fashion in the case of Piszczek, are having some difficulties here.
Hearing from pit lane, suspected front wing damage for Sam Sanders, that he's clipped a piece of debris or something out there, and he just doesn't have the confidence with the front end of that car. Patrick Piszczek is going to come back into the race now, but has lost at least one lap, possibly two, as a result of that incident, and is well and truly out of the reckoning. There's James Fremont in the pits as well, also looking like he could be I couldn't tell whether that was due to a problem or due to just coming in for some fuel, with 32 laps of this race to go. And to be clear, single car incident, meaning if we didn't go to caution per the regulations in this race.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Andrew Dawson into the pit lane for what looks like a conventional stop. Jeff definitely in contention for a podium in Class 2 today, as he gets some of the go juice put on board his Dallara IR18.
Very careful into the box there as well. I've seen quite a few people spin in that last little slam on the brakes. Dawson giving away a second or so in all of that, but keeping himself pointing in the right direction. You just caught a sight of Ian Sumner there being lapped by Steve Hicks. So the lead looks like this as Josh Ladd comes back into pit lane. With just over 30 laps of the race to go. He's just got to keep plugging around, you feel. There's your leader, Charlie Summers. The flag of America on his car, leading at Indianapolis with 30 laps to go after this one. Will have to come into the pits one more time, though, if this race stays green. And it has been green for quite a while now. Michael Preston, what a drive this has been. The incident involving Craig Brown, or with Craig Brown earlier in this race, not Preston's fault. You really thought at that stage of the day that a big opportunity for Michael Preston was gone, but he's managed to fight his way back into this. The speed is good in the number 19. In fact, that is a fastest lap of the race so far, 40.372. He is flying at the moment, 7/10 quicker than Summers last time around.
And I'm sure he's just thinking right now, Andrew, about being competitive in this race right now. But we've seen issues for Josh Ladd. We've seen issues for Sam Sanders, albeit Sanders still running in a pretty strong fifth. But this is a great opportunity for Preston in this championship to finally take a round win potentially here, which he has not yet done this season.
His second individual race wins, as you say, has not had a chance to be on the top step for a full event. Looks like Patrick Piszczek's had more problems, I'm sad to report, because he's been in the pits once again. Track is speeding up a field because Steve Hicks has now just gone and set the fastest lap of the race so far. As Piszczek back out on circuit, all of a sudden he's down in 18th place. He's not where he would have wanted to be. Back on board with Preston. Race leader Charlie Summers just ahead.
9 cars on the lead lap in this one, I believe, Andrew, if I'm not too mistaken.
Yeah, so it's Summers, Preston, Hicks, Montgomery, Sanders, who we hear is running with damage. Now he will be able to get that repaired on the next pit stop, whether that be under green flag conditions or under a caution, but just look how far he's fallen back. And the car not able to hold the same speed through the corners that it was earlier on in this race. And this will be painful for Sam Sanders now, because he'll be able to feel that in the rig. And just looking at those end plates there of the wing, I think it might be the left-hand side. Driver's left is just raised ever so slightly.
That's an unfortunate way to look at the end plate. Yes, I tried. But yeah, frustration for certain for Sam Sanders here. It's just, I mean, got a fair old bit of gap behind him there to Chris Powell, you can just see, but yeah, this isn't where he wanted to be. He's previously led this race in the early stages, battling away at the front, and yeah, it might be a case of what might have been come the end of this one for Sam Sanders. Here's your top three though: Summers, Preston, Hicks. As we enter the last quarter of this Simply Catnip Indy 250 race, and it is at the moment the Stars and Stripes leading this one, but for how long? Because Michael Preston looks very much like a man on a mission right now.
Do you start to smell the checkered flag at this stage? We're into the final quarter of this race. Michael Preston into sixth gear, over start finish, over the yard of bricks.
What does a checkered flag smell like precisely?
I imagine at this circuit maybe of burgers and cheese and some fries. Some high quality.
I thought you were going to go down a different track. Oh, that was a big move. Preston pushing really hard here. I was thinking you were going to go down a different track and say it smelt of milk. Is the winner of this race going to have to drink some milk?
Some milk will have to be devoured, if that's a term for throwing milk over yourself at this circuit.
Those not too familiar with this race might struggle with that reference, but Indy 500, it's not champagne that you get at the end, it's some lovely milk. Which I hear doesn't make the race suit smell all that great, but then again, champagne isn't famous for that either. Steve Hicks now seems to have sensed the blood in the water, I think, from Preston on that last lap. He just got a bit out of shape, and James Montgomery right there in with them here. This is brilliant stuff from the number 14.
It's a fast car, that number 14, if you remember earlier in this race, due to an unfortunate spin in the pit lane for Ben Benewith that delayed James Montgomery. He was down to 10th around lap 30. He's not fallen by the wayside at all in the traffic. He's managed to work his way through. Has a chance here for a podium. Just over 20 laps to go. Still under green racing conditions for the Simply Catnip Indy 250. Hicks taking that wider line once again. They're catching traffic. It's James Fremont ahead of them as they go down the back straight.
Fremont, I think, choosing to not be too much of an issue for these leaders, although as I say that, Preston's having to deal with him here as they go through turn 4.
Big opportunity this for Summers, you feel. Can he get away?
Can Montgomery get by? This is an interesting moment for him as he's in the wheel tracks. Oh, and it's a moment for Montgomery. He's into the wall.
He got all out of shape on the rear axle through turn 1. Somehow Steve Hicks has survived again. I thought they were sure to take both of themselves, well, both cars out, but James Montgomery, after such a strong run, is out. He is another driver to fall by the wayside here at Indianapolis in the Simply Catnip Indy 250. We saw it with Patrick Pischke around 10 or 15 laps ago. It's James Montgomery this time. As we're back on board now with Andrew Dawson. Josh Ladd's in trouble. He's off. Josh Ladd is off. Big incident off of turn 2 into the wall. And Josh Ladd's day is surely over now.
Goodness me. Murray Adams is on the pit lane. I'll report that, but this is, yeah, we've not seen a round like this from Josh Ladd. Sorry to sort of say it in that way, actually. His standard is so high, and he just clearly hasn't been as comfortable in this one.
Caught the curb. Is Summers trying to get it slowed down? Oh. Did he get it slowed down? Did he get it slowed down to the pit lane speed limit? He was locked up a big way there beyond the yellow cones. I'm worried here at this stage for Charlie Summers Howard as to whether that was a legal pit entry. We will know soon enough. Into the box he comes, the race leader. This will be his final fuel stop.
James Montgomery also here receiving damage repair. Here he is trying to get into his pit box. Oh goodness me, it's really galling for him. He was driving so well, but it takes but a moment for this circuit to bite. And somehow, as you say, mate, Steve Hicks survived it. To finish first, first you have to finish. And he is still very much a factor in this race, albeit it's 2.3 seconds the gap now to Michael Preston out front.
But Michael Preston leading again. Who would have called this? Who would have called this earlier on when he was in the pits being towed back virtually by the sim with no front end on that car? We're very thankful for the fast repairs in this race that have managed to keep him in contention. We're getting close to the end now. Mike Hart has had a relatively quiet day, but is still running pretty well in the top 5.
And here's Tom Dix, who arguably hasn't so much. A few dramas befalling his race, but also coming to a stop this time for a conventional stop in the box. Sam Sanders is onto the pit lane as well.
Yeah, all these stops the last time for each of these drivers.
Crucially, Andrew, will he get that damage repaired in this stop?
He will get it repaired, so it'll be interesting to see, does Sanders' pace pick up again after this pit stop? That has been a real struggle for Sam Sanders in the middle to late stage of this race.
Charlie Summers here behind Andrew Dawson. So does this help him or does it hinder him a bit? He's going to get the slipstream, so he'll have some nice pace off of that. But if he's going to try and get by on these drivers, is this going to give an opportunity to those at the front?
I think he's lost a big amount of time here. I think there has been a hold in the box potentially served, because we know that this the situation is that you lose about a lap. This will be the interesting point. Where does Sam Sanders come out relative to Charlie Summers? If it's ahead of Charlie Summers, we know that Summers is... yes, you know it is Michael Preston. Apologies. So Michael Preston is going to come out of the pit lane behind Charlie Summers. So apologies. No, Charlie Summers hasn't lost time.
Crucially, he slots in behind the... my timing hasn't updated, but he's behind Andrew Dawson there, I think, on the road.
Yep. Let's just walk it through and work this out as to whether Charlie Summers has lost out or not. I think he has. I think he's a lap behind. He is a lap behind. So I think Charlie Summers, off of our cameras, has unfortunately had a speeding in pit lane penalty.
Yes, you are right. He is a lap down here. My goodness me. So that is another person running at the front of this race who has had an issue before their race. Before their race, excuse me. And yeah, that is gutting for Charlie Summers. But as you say, mate, we observed that he was right. I mean, there's a really fine line between optimising your pit entry and ruining your pit entry. And unfortunately for him, he seems to have fallen onto the wrong side of that.
Yep. Big mistake from Charlie Summers. We saw his left-hand wheel all locked up. Here's Steve Hicks bringing it down to the speed limit.
Now, here's the thing. Did Michael Preston there lose any time getting by an Andrew Dawson?
Yes.
How is this going to play out? How will this play out? You can see there on the track map, second place, because this is position numbers, so you can see there that Michael Preston is just between 3 and 4 now, as Hicks comes to stop on his marks. I think this is going to be comfortable for Preston.
Fuel goes in. Doesn't need to be a lot, of course. It's only 13 laps of this race remaining after the one that they're on at the moment. Steve Hicks re-emerges, done a very good job on fuel, but has not done a good enough job to overhaul this man, Michael Preston. What a fight back this has been. Leads once again at Indianapolis. And now we'll be thinking about the finish. It's got that pit stop done. It's David Whitehouse to the outside there.
This has been such an impressive comeback from Michael Preston here in this one. As it's as we've been finding throughout the race, not the easiest thing to get by on cars a lap down, but what a recovery drive it has been from Preston. Had that contact with Craig Brown, had to have the damage repaired, but is now at the head of this field.
think we're looking at about 3.5 seconds, am I right in saying so, for the gap back to Hicks?
Yep, 3.5 seconds. Absolutely.
Here's Christopher Powell still. What a drive this has been. In 5th place overall at the moment. First in Class 2. That's Mike Hart just ahead. It's a great drive from Mike as well. He was in trouble in the early stages of this race. Has been strong since about lap 20. Now finds himself in 4th place. Here's a battle between Cameron Watson and Alex Mitchell. This is for position, isn't it?
Exactly. This is Alex Mitchell fighting for position. I think we should note this one as they're side by side there and getting very close to the wall on the high side there for Cameron Watson. This is a tasty little battle for those wanting to be in the top 10, and not for the first time today. We've had to see a driver back out of a move on Alex Mitchell.
Watson trying to go around the outside this time.
Yeah, sorry, he knows how to position his car, does Mitchell, to deter a move here. But this time I think, oh no, I'm not gonna call that yet. They're still side by side as they come through 4. This is a great little battle.
We've got some drivers in pit lane as well. I think Josh Ladd's trying to get back out on circuit. At least try and pick up some points, because you never know. This is the thing with him having missed one round already. He's effectively used up one of his drop scores. He'll hope that today is a drop score come the end of the season. What a season we've got coming up. More events for you. Kicking off the summer, June 22nd, for the 4-hour Pro-Am around Le Mans. It'll be a very intriguing event with drivers paired up from Class 1 and Class 2. Teamwork is going to be a big part of that event. Still this battle going on between Alex Mitchell and Cameron Watson.
I'm enjoying this one. This one's great. And through goes Watson. I think that's the first time he's managed to be ahead for more than a few yards. That's before a counter-attack comes. That was a lovely little exchange, and Cameron Watson up into the top 10.
Yeah, it's been a tough day for Cameron Watson. I think would have hoped for a little bit more based off at least the open qualifying session. He qualified in the top 5. But yes, events coming up. Le Mans on the 22nd of June. We'll be at Silverstone in the Formula 3s. As Patrick Pichgay's in the pits and looks to be out of the race, Howard.
Yeah. A really unfortunate way for it to end for Pichgay. Was so impressive in the early parts of this race. But and such fine margins can things turn around any racetrack, particularly an oval racetrack with an IndyCar, particularly Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
8 laps then. 8 laps for Michael Preston for him to complete cleanly and without issue to win at Indianapolis and be the winner of round 6 of the 2022 Club 100 and BUKC iRacing Championship. On board now with Christopher Powell running in 5th place. That's Mike Hart just ahead. Mike Hart defends to the inside through turn number 1, deters any move to the inside from Powell, and they continue as were. Just to continue that rundown of the events that we've got coming up, if you are a Club 100 or BUKC racer past or present, July 13th, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit will be the host for our next Formula 3 round. We'll have a bit of a summer break and return at the start of September for the next endurance event in the sequence that we're reading out there. We'll be at Bathurst in the GT3 cars, Monza in the TCRs at the end of September. October we'll be back in the F3s around the Red Bull Ring. Then November's round, the last of the endurance races, 2 times 40-minute race in the GT3s round into Lagos. December 7th we finish in the MX-5s in Japan at Suzuka. If you want to get involved, do check out the details in the description or get in contact with this man, championship organiser Steve Hicks. This has been a very good day for Steve Hicks. He's been doing a lot of running here at Indianapolis in recent weeks. He's been taking part in the special events and putting all of that experience to good use here, Howard, running in P2.
Yeah, it's been a really good, clean run on a day when we've spoken a lot about just keeping going, keep on circulating. He has been doing so with competitive pace, and he's been able to somehow, Andrew, avoid all of the dramas around him, and he's going to be rewarded, as it currently stands, with a decent haul of points in this championship. That should really keep him in contention as we go into the latter half of the season. Brilliant calendar it is that's been put together for this season, as you were just going through. But yeah, could be an interesting one here for the series organizer.
4 laps to go after this one. Lap 100, 101, 102 and 103. Can Michael Preston hold on? Here's Cameron Watson. Looks like they've got Andrew Dawson just ahead. Andrew Dawson got a bit of an issue there. Slightly off the pace. He's running out of fuel a little bit. Just trying to coast it to the end, but Watson's going to gain another position here. He's going to take 9th place.
And Alex Mitchell, you would assume, would be by as well sometime soon if Dawson is ailing slightly.
Time running out, though, for those further down the order. They'll keep going, of course, to pick up the points. This one's looking in control at the moment. Obviously, we hope it doesn't finish under caution, but we're getting towards that point now where if the yellow did come out, the race would be over. Here's Christopher Powell once again. 5th place still, Mike Hart ahead. I think he's probably just settled for this position because the point score that he's going to get for his efforts in Class 2 are going to be more important than getting 4th place overall in this race. Looks like Alex Mitchell has got past Andrew Dawson now for 10th place.
Yeah, not sure, as I said, maybe it is fuel or something, but Dawson seems to have dropped off the pace a little bit here. Christopher Powell here doesn't want to do anything rash here, Andrew, because the Class 2 victory is very much within his grasp.
Yep.
Murray Adams some 14 seconds back, although to be fair, why has Tom Kempix closed right in on him?
Yeah.
This battle for 6th overall, 2nd in class, is Murray Adams having to drop the pace back for fuel reasons.
Yeah, I think that quite possibly could be the case here. And it's why that we mentioned it earlier on in the race that if you could make the fuel go a little bit longer in the middle stages of this race, it really does reward you when you want to get racy at the end. Last lap, white flag is out then for Michael Preston. Hasn't won a round so far this season, has had race victories. Has got Charlie Summers and David Whitehouse just ahead. He'll just hold position, doesn't want to risk anything here. Steve Hicks is there in the green and white at the back of your screen. But Michael Preston, it has not been easy for him here today at Indianapolis. He had the incident around lap 20. It thought to be all over for Michael Preston at that stage of the race, but Michael Preston wins at Indianapolis and is the winner of the Simply Catnip Indy 250. He takes round 6 of the 2022 Club 100 and BUKC iRacing Championship, and a big statement in his championship bid. Steve Hicks finishes in 2nd place. 3rd place is going to be Sam Sanders. A good effort from Sam Sanders, having had trouble in the 3rd quarter of this race. 4th place for Mike Hart. 5th place, but more importantly, winning in Class 2 is Christopher Powell. A brilliant try from Christopher Powell. He really is putting together a title charge in Class 2. 6th place will go to Tom Kemping. More good points for the man from Belgium. 7th place for Murray Adams. 8th for Charlie Summers, who, well, if he'd not had that penalty, if he'd not got that pit entry wrong, as I think Andrew Dawson has run out of fuel, well, Charlie Summers could have been right in there. 9th place for Cameron Watson. 10th place for Alex Mitchell. 11th, Matt Hale. 12th, James Montgomery. Andrew Dawson crawls over the line. No engine tone at all from his Dallara IR18, but he's got to the finish and he's got 13th place. 14th place is James Fremont. What a race, Howard.
Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Michael Preston, who's now got a completely damaged car, but brilliant comeback drive from the actual damage that he had earlier on. It just goes to show with this format of race, and as I said earlier, as you see in the real world Indy 500 race, you do not give up on this one. You keep on running, you keep on going, and you push as much as you can. You know, not just, and he's not the only driver who had damage there and came through to have an absolutely stellar result. You know, Sam Sanders had a bit of damage to be repaired on the front wing. We saw, was it James Montgomery who had the bizarre moment in the pit lane? He was running really well before, unfortunately, he had another incident. So, you know, this is the race where comebacks are possible, and Michael Preston has really demonstrated that. You're not helping as I'm talking about this, Michael, but he's really demonstrated that you just don't give up at Indianapolis, and in doing so, he's taken his first win of the season.
Absolutely. Well, the next round of this championship, round 7, will be in France at Circuit de la Sarthe for the 4-hour endurance special, the Pro-Am special. There is your race result on your screen. You can check out all the results on the Club 100 iRacing Championship page. If you do want to get involved, you're on Facebook. Details are in the description below as to how you can get involved. We're on Discord as well. Plenty of racing going on. As I say, round 7, 22nd of June, we'll be racing in the Ferrari GT3, just the Ferrari for this one, so we don't have to worry about balance of performance and everyone whinging about that. Just the same car for everybody. 2 driver teams. Should be a really, really good event. But that's all we've got time for here at Indianapolis today. Thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage. If you have and you haven't already, do make sure that you've subscribed to the Double Dash Motorsport Media YouTube channel, and we're at Double Dash MM across all of your social media networks. My name's been Andrew Mather. He's been Howard Mitchell. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you again very, very soon for more racing here in the Club 100 and BUKC iRacing Championship.